Welcome to the show that looks at truth, fiction, and reality with a smirk. I'm Aaron Peterson.
I'm Amanda Sink.
And I'm Zack Parkerson.
Each other week, one of our hosts introduces an original story, which we then use as a springboard for spirited discussion on whatever the moral or theme of their story was. I almost forgot what I was going to say.
Are you sure? It is, not was.
Are you sure you don't want to take that from the top?
Nope.
Let's just restart the whole thing.
This week it is Zack's turn, which means someone's going to die. There's probably going to be a car accident, I would guess, and someone's going to lose their parent or child.
Well, I decided, it was hard to write anything negative when the world's on fire.
Oh, it's getting better. There's vaccines now.
You're right.
It's all good. All good. Golden. Going to be great. Great
You're right,
year.
man. I'm stuck in the past. I apologize.
Yep.
It's all better now.
So is this going to be a rosy story? Is it going to be joyful, upbeat?
I think so. I don't know. It's hard to know. I think I would say that it is a positive story. Sorry to my loyal negative fan base out there.
We need a little joy. 2021 got a little rough start, but we're finding our footing a little bit. I hope, maybe right now.
Don't jinx it, please.
Yeah. What did you just do?
I stop talking. You know what? Tell your story. Let's get into this.
Oh, sure. Let's gather around the campfire. It's time for a story. James had met his father many years ago at this point, but their relationship was fraught and challenging. Meeting a parent later in life always came with its very severe set of stumbling blocks. James had always heard a confusing set of myriad tales about his father's exit from his early life, and the shared details between those various stories were few at most. It was hard to piece together the truth, and that made an already angry child struggle with even more anger. In truth, James and his dad were probably too much alike, and that's what had caused the tension, but these sorts of details exclusively reveal themselves in hindsight. Now, James loved video games. Who couldn't? They are, of course, objectively the most powerful medium for storytelling. After all, editors note, real quick, this is an empirical and undebatable fact. Back to the story. The most recent Christmas procured him the funds necessary for the latest Xbox. Now, unfortunately, the Wi-Fi didn't properly work from James's room, and after shakily asking his father, he was allowed to set it up temporarily in the living room. This came as quite a shock to James, as his father was overly protective of his big old TV and was typically busy watching movies on it. Another editor's note, movies are an old school form of storytelling, quite shy of the heights of narrative that video games achieve. That is a fact from science. Back to the story. But downloading the demos began. Dismayed at the length of the downloads, James decided to press his luck and asked to play on the big TV while get things downloaded. Truly, Christmas spirit must have been in abundance because his father said yes. James booted up the classic Xbox shooter he had purchased and started up the campaign. He was utterly entranced in the smooth gameplay and slick narrative storytelling. More surprisingly, as was his father. In fact, it didn't take long before his father asked if multiple people could play at the same time. James walked his father through the controls with perhaps too little impatience for both parties, but eventually they had a good rhythm going. Before they knew it, it was the wee hours of the morning. James and his dad had pulled their very first all-nighter together. Unbelievably, the next night, James' father wanted to play more. They kept playing, and eventually they ran out of campaign. Unbelievably, the two went online together to play versus multiplayer. It went on for weeks, that Xbox in the living room. They met friends online together, even pretended they weren't related online so they could be treated as equals by the random people. It was surreal. Sometimes James' father was asking James to stay up late on school nights so they could play even longer. A few times James' father even used the Xbox on his own. Hell, it didn't take much longer before the household had two Xbox consoles in it. They kept playing that game for months and months, finally have something long-term to bond over.
Aw, that's like a family adventure.
Sweet!
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
And I do love I don't know if it's scripted, but the breaks where you tackle the fourth wall there and talk to the audience and tell them.
Even though half of it was incorrect, I might add, the second editor's note was not backed by science.
I am I'm just reading the editor's notes here. I had no input on it, guys. I'm sorry.
Is that where the stories are better in video games than movies?
Yeah,
that was adorable.
I'm pretty sure
Love
science. That. Yeah, let me double check real quick. Yeah, no, science did prove that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Science, just science. Science in general did approve that. Okay.
The scientific community came together and decided, yes, this is true.
Sounds valid. Yeah.
The organization of the Flat Earthers or what?
Yeah, the Flat Earthers, Holocaust deniers, and dinosaur truthers all came together and decided the games are better. What do you guys think the moral or theme of the story was?
The power of storytelling or the power of video games.
Oh my God, you couldn't be closer to the truth.
Aw.
You don't know.
I like it.
He already said I'm close enough to the truth or whatever he said. So, like, obviously I'm right and you're wrong.
I want to get closer. I
will tell you can't get closer.
Okay. All right. Well, what is it?
The moral is the power of video games.
Okay.
Wow.
So, I thought it was storytelling. I really thought it was storytelling.
Well, no. Come on.
Well, he didn't talk as much about the campaigns. He talked more about the games and sitting in the bonding over it. And then how they were playing offline, like they were playing on two separate consoles, online, versus.
I would agree. Video games are one of those things where you can really make lifelong friends. I've met lifelong friends on video games before. One of my closest friends, Brian, met him on a video game. So yes, it can be done.
Yeah. Well, that leads right into my first question, Aaron.
Oh, well, that was my plan, Zach.
Can either of you say you've had a profound experience while playing a video game?
I mean, definitely. I've had some good experiences playing video games. I would say, though, a lot of my good memories or memories in general tie back to my childhood when I had someone to sit and play with more often and I had more time to play them because I had siblings. And now, I might play some of these single player games, but it's fun, but it's not the same as playing a game with somebody. And those are the memories that stick with me more so. Like I can remember the soundtracks from some of them. I can physically remember, and I have a terrible, terrible memory. I can actually remember and visualize it in my brain some of these old, Sony games or, going back further, some of the other games that I would play. And it was always the games that I played with someone else next to me.
Profound. Yeah. I mean, I just talked about my friend Brian. I met him playing video games, playing multiplayer video games online. And this has been 15 years now, probably something like that. Been a long time. And we just started off just being guys that we talked the same kind of smack to the other players. And we, started just being friendly because of that. And then we ended up with like a small group of us, and just he and I got very, very close. And eventually when I started doing the Hollywood Outsider, I invited him to come do that. And we spent like more time from that point forward. And now we've taken cruises together. We've taken vacations together. We're going to Alaska together next year. I mean, or this year, provided we can leave.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So,
I'm so jealous.
I would consider that profound because he's one of my closest friends. And
that's a beautiful story.
I assume that you have your own personal memories, or we just heard one.
I mean, I don't know. I've probably had dozens of profound experiences with video games. Whether it's story or moments you share with people or whatnot. Even bonding with an uncle I'd only just met through Borderlands or something like that. But then on the flip side, playing a video game about the trauma or something like that, and it speaks to you. Yeah, video games are, to me, they put you in the story, so it makes you closer to the experience than any other medium.
Which one puts you closer to it, or which one impacts you the most? Playing a single player where you're engrossed in it and you're just then going through whatever the campaign is, or multiplayer where you're playing with other people and you're actually conversing and you're bouncing back and forth and you're just kind of having
to work together as a team.
Yeah, like what strikes you the most?
I feel like the question's framed to make me sound antisocial, but
no. Some people prefer to do things on their own. Like I don't think it's antisocial at all.
No, definitely more single player. There are multiplayer, stories that are cool. But it's just for me, it's those single player stories, those moments that they craft for you, I suppose, Multiplayer's cool. It produces its own stories, but it's just not the reason I primarily play video games.
Do you feel like it's a This is legitimate. This is an offshoot question. And I'm just, because you're the gamer, right? Obviously, you love the video games because you made a whole podcast episode about it right now.
Uh-huh.
But when it comes to games, the one thing I loved about the simplicity of Pac-Man or things like that back in the day. Don't get me wrong, I love the games now way more. But on the same token, a lot of them are designed so basically your path is preordained for a vast majority of them. Does that really feel like a game as much to you when a lot of it is just cutscenes and you know exactly what you got to do, the exact same thing? You can't do it any different. Like Pac-Man, you could take tons of different routes to get away. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where most video games today, you have a very prescribed path to follow. Is that really a game if there's really no chance for innovation?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. There are layers to it, but like let's take Call of Duty for example, which is very straight A to B. You have to kill these guys in this order almost. To me, it still is because, Captain Walker doesn't get to the end. He's not going to get to across the bridge in Russia if you're not there making it happen. So it is still interactive, and it still, to me, makes what could be video games can make simple stories much more compelling to me because you're there helping make it happen. You're an active participant in the storytelling, even if it is minimal. And I do think Call of Duty is fun, but it is less profound because of what you're describing, that it is just straight. But I mean, some of my favorite games like Uncharted are very linear, but it's that combination of the tactics of cinematic storytelling of cutscenes and stuff like that, interwoven with the fight scenes play out because you're there.
Right. Well, in multiplayer, that's still very much a game because you're playing against other people who could just destroy you if you don't know what you're doing and you're not good at it.
Right. But I mean, there's a whole genre of game called, they jokingly refer to them as walking simulators, where you basically just press forward and the story is almost told for you. And I still think that just being there and controlling the person who, opens the drawer, it just pulls me into the narrative more. It is, it's the difference between if you leave the room, the movie still plays, but if you leave the room, the video game needs you there, even however minimally.
Wow, that was deep.
It was deep. And speaking of deep, I kind of segued away from you, man. A profound game experience?
She said with siblings, right?
Yeah, mine all revolve around my childhood. That was the memories that I actually have. And I feel like it's because I'm developing them with someone else that's probably has more to do with it, because as an adult, the games that I play with other people tend to be more board games than video games.
Yeah.
So my video game memories in adulthood tend to be just me, where I get where Zach's coming from of why he leans into that so much, but it just doesn't develop a memory for me, and I don't feel as invested in it when it's just me. If I have somebody else who's alongside me, even just hanging out while I play, or especially playing with me, if we can do something together or we're competing, something of that, then it's more memorable.
What about you, Zach? Or you already talked about it?
Oh yeah, dozens.
Yeah.
I've probably played. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say I've probably played 10,000 video games.
10,000?
That seems quite possible. I mean, surely you've seen 10,000 movies in your lifetime.
Think of all the hours you could have spent watching movies.
Right. Which although last I checked with science is an inferior format.
Yeah. Well, thank God science is here.
Yeah.
Thanks, science.
Science dropped by the podcast.
Yeah.
Thankfully. But so let me ask you guys, do you think video games have reached the status of other mediums in terms of storytelling yet?
Can you ask science real quick if you should wear a mask while you're playing video games? That's something I don't think we've got.
Are we supposed to not be political right now?
We've got a ruling on it. What was the question? Have the storytelling what?
Do you think
the answer is no, Aaron? The answer is automatically no. He's asking if storytelling in video games is better than any other form of media.
Eclipsed.
I said on par.
No,
okay,
I don't.
No.
I don't. You know how let's see, but to be fair, Zach, okay, because I know you're an advocate for storytelling in video games.
We're about to leave the podcast already, yeah.
No. I do not play video games for the story. So to me, I am not somebody who cares? I've played every Call of Duty game that's come out, and I still can't tell you what the story. I know there's a war, and I got to shoot that guy. That's the story for all of them. I've played every Uncharted game, and I love those games because they're very Indiana Jones-esque. I've played Tomb Raider and everything else. I remember Lara Croft and I remember Nathan Drake. I remember their names. I don't remember what happened in those games because I'm playing to play. I want to play. It's the distraction. It's to kill time. It's because, I want to see if I can get to that thing or get that achievement or whatever. I don't care what the story is, man. Very rarely. I played Ghost of Tsushima. I love that story. That was a fascinating story. I was invigorated and fascinated with it the entire time I played it. Very rare for me. I normally just don't care.
Zach, can I admit something to you without you leaving the podcast or banning me from your life forever?
Are you going to say you've never beaten a video game?
No, I have.
Okay.
On accident?
No.
Cheat codes!
I think it's Assassin's Creed, and I think it's Assassin's Creed 2 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare, maybe, are the only ones that I've fully beaten. Hey, I was really good with Call of Duty. And I would always play, here's a memory, I would always play Call of Duty with the soundtrack of Garbage playing in the background. So whenever I listen to this specific Garbage soundtrack, I can actually visualize different moments from the game, even though I've kind of the same
album
idea.
or does actual Garbage have a soundtrack? Because I don't understand.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm at album, not
I'm just
the
like
actual Garbage.
Garbage Day or what's going on?
It's funny that you bring that up because sometimes I listen to podcasts while I play video games, like especially if I'm like replaying them or trying to go for full completion. And like when I replay them, like I was just replaying Batman Arkham Asylum some time ago. Like I'll get to the fight with Bane or whatever, and it reminds me of a podcast conversation that I heard, but that I heard 12 years ago.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And it's super weird. I remember, the host of the Giant Bombcast debating on whether or not Sam Fisher was going to have his goggles in the most recent Splinter Cell. Like I remember the conversation. It's freaky, but it reminds me of your album connotation. It's just weird that the brain links those things together like that.
But I still haven't. So now that we had this really, really sweet moment where we connected and bonded over something, I'm going to share something with you that will actually probably make you very mad at me.
Oh, great.
Up until probably the last, I would say every game aside from Assassin's Creed and within the last year, I have statistically always skipped the story scenes.
It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
I don't need to hear anything you're saying. I don't
They're like,
care.
Here's a pivotal plot point. Man, it's like, beep, beep. Done.
God,
I do.
Could you imagine, like, that'd be like watching a TV show, but you only watch every other episode.
I don't care.
I only watched the last 3 episodes of Cobra Kai.
Yeah, but I don't care.
I have an opinion on it.
Just tell me what I need to do, and then I'm going to go and do it. I really don't have opinions on video games. That's the funny part. I'm not that person, at least, where I'm like, this game sucks, or this game was so much. Well, I guess I could say it was fun based on my activity with it, but
I am a little offended just because you know how much I care about
I know
the most recent Tomb Raider games. I remember you calling me and me helping you with a phone on some puzzles. Even, and if I had known you were skipping Laura's intense personal struggle before
no,
then,
I did watch hers. So I guess that was probably how many years ago did that game come out? 2 or 3?
That was 2015.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I don't know. I feel like then maybe it was the second game.
The second one was 2015. That's what you called me about. Was the second
one.
She
totally skipped it.
I don't think you played
totally
skipped it. I don't think you played it for a year or 2 after.
Yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, I would say at least prior to that.
I've got my friend Troy, his son. I was just because I was gonna play Miles Morales. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I was playing, and I was just kind of curious how long was it, and I Googled it, and I knew roughly how long it was because there's this thing I call gamer time, which is where actual gamers will tell you something's way longer or way shorter than it usually is. Well, it's like 10 to 12 hours. It's usually like 20 because they don't pay attention.
Or maybe you haven't gotten good yet.
It's true. Maybe. So I asked Troy, I'm like, well, how long did your son play Miles Morales because he beat it? Well, it's like 6.5 hours. I'm like, I thought it was longer than that. He's like, nah, it's only 6.5 hours. Well, Well, his son skips all the cinematics, and to me that says, well, you're not really enjoying the game at all, Amanda. So I don't even know. I mean, even though I don't care about the story, I still want to know what the hell's going on in the game. Like, why am I playing this thing? Maybe if you watched them, you would be engrossed enough to at least continue.
And that's such a weird game to do it too, because outside of the story, it's just identical to the one that came out 2 years ago.
The exact same game.
Here's the thing, though. Even I've tried, and this was particularly even worse when I was younger. But I would try and watch it, and then I would just get distracted, and I would listen to the music, or I'd lay down and wait for it to finish. Like, I literally just didn't care at all.
I'm going to go take a nap. I'm tired. This game is so tiring.
Some of them, I've had games where they won't let you skip through it, which is really, really annoying. So then I would be forced to sit there, and I would just get so distracted by something else, and I would just wait for it to finish.
I mean, if it was like Metal Gear Solid, I would be with you, because those cutscenes are what, 90 minutes and stuff? I mean, it's ridiculous.
The final cutscene of Metal Gear Solid 4, which was supposed to be the end of the franchise in its partial defense, was 72 minutes long. One cutscene.
No.
That's a movie.
No, I would literally leave and go watch a movie for sure.
That's fine. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat, but I knew it was coming. That was the last cutscene, so I hit a timer just because I had to know. And it was over 72 minutes long.
That's ridiculous.
That's insane.
Well, I'm glad we're still here doing this podcast after that confession.
It's hard to swallow. It's just like, it's funny because I thought video games were cool, when I played Pokemon and stuff, but I didn't really love video games until I started, like Zelda or Final Fantasy, when they started having stories. And that's when I truly started to care, because even back in those days when it was just text, it was like a more interesting form of reading a book even.
Well, I do think, and this is probably a fault of just growing up and probably a generation where video games weren't prominent at home. There was like the Nintendo consoles and Super Nintendo and stuff like that, but most people, especially if you're poor like me, you didn't have much of that. You had to go to an arcade, so you had to leave the house and go somewhere to play, and then you had a limited amount of how much you could play because it cost money to play. So, I think a lot of that generation saw video games as well. You could be going outside. You could be doing things. Don't waste it. And now this generation, now we're in the generation of gamers becoming parents and whatnot, and they know that a video game can teach you a lot of hand-eye coordination, can teach you a lot of skills. There's just a lot of reactionary information. People always say, well, if you're playing video games, you're not really, you're not being social. Well, then you've never played video games online, because it's constant social activity if you do that. So there's tons of social activity. World of Warcraft is a very social game, and people play that and don't leave their house for weeks.
I truly don't think there's a better way to learn for kids to learn to read than video games.
Can I tell you one skill that I think video games could have been if I would have just been very committed to them, could have proved to be very useful in my life? And
short-term memorization.
Silence?
Both? All of the above? No, the distance. I cannot visualize distance for myself. If you tell me it's a mile ahead, I'm going to ask you probably every 2 seconds, am I at a mile yet? Am I at a mile yet? And I feel like in video games where they have the charting. Zach, what's the words that I'm looking for here?
The waypoint? Heads up display?
Sure, but it'll tell you like how many kilometers or whatever it is, and you can start to visualize that. And I feel like I would have gotten so much use out of that if I would have paid attention as a child and understood it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I always fast travel. I don't want to see all this extra crap.
I exclusively do not fast travel in any video game.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why I get done faster.
I did it in the Spider-Man game because it was easy.
Well, I don't know. That's crazy because the swinging's so fun.
Swinging is fun.
But I mean, you know what? In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I had to review and hated just about every minute of, I did use fast travel. So I guess
makes it easier.
No, Odyssey.
No, Odyssey.
Two Assassin's Creeds ago.
Valhalla's a 80-hour game, so
yeah,
I'll never play it.
Aaron, you probably ask me how long video games are all the time. I think I told you Miles was like 10, 12 hours.
Yeah, you were right.
I try to give realistic estimates.
You are correct.
You're right, but I think most gamers give like a shorthand, like because they think if they shoot under, you'll play it more likely. But I think the real answer is you're just going to get frustrated quicker.
You're always honest, but everybody else that's a gamer, it's always under. It's way under, and it's just ludicrous. Like, oh, this, how long was Fallout? Oh, it's 8 hours. What? No, just give it a shot, man. Try it. You might like it. But people that are trying to sell Valhalla, it's an 80-hour game. Well, it's 80 hours, but once you get into it, no, I'm good. I'm never going to get into it. For 80 hours, I'm just never going to why would I want to play something I would automatically already know I'm going to fail?
Right. Or the worst is when people are like, hey, you just got to get like 5 hours into it, man, and it gets really good.
Tell you, just like watching a TV series, right? Just get to the first season.
Yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like my famous example. Oh, man, it gets so good after first season. Like, I'll never know.
Nope. I did first season. You had 22 episodes to get this right.
I'm not watching 20 hours. I'm not doing 20 hours of anything if it's not good.
What else you got?
Man, no, sorry.
We took a tangent turn.
It did. I have a bonus question after this because I need smart people to think. But I really wanted to know, what's your favorite video game?
Like of all time. And you mean favorite by enjoyability, not best, right?
Objectively the best video game of all time, and I mean it has to be Ocarina of Time, right? Like I don't.
So that's yours.
It's not my favorite, but I'm just saying if there is an empirical best.
Oh, just go with favorite, Manda. With the one where you think of, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I guess best, like it would just have to be Tetris, right? Like you cannot make Tetris. You cannot make Tetris any better than it is.
That Tetris Evolved is a really cool game, though.
But it's still just Tetris.
It is. Yeah, but it's really cool. It's with music, and I'm like...
Damn, I was wrong. Okay, never mind. Tetris Evolved Tetris Effect is the best you can get.
It's pretty cool. Is it? Whatever the name of it was. Amanda, what about you? Favorite?
Favorite is, and this is just my first reaction, which is probably accurate, Assassin's Creed 2.
That's
right.
a great one.
You do fight the Pope at the end, so that's pretty badass.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry.
It's
Spoilers.
super old.
Sorry, spoilers for a 14-year-old video game.
Yep. Mine's Prince of Persia. All-time Prince of Persia, probably.
Oh, the OG.
The original one, it's a side scroller, which means you're playing a character that goes from left to right. And it's basically it's kind of like Mario in a way, but it's cool. It's like a really cool version of Mario because you have to go line or layer by layer to get to the top of the tower to save the princess, essentially. And you're Egyptian? How would you explain it? You're probably better at explaining the story of it.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a very simple save the princess, but the cool hook of Prince of Persia, which is, just so you know, in my top 100 video games of all time.
Oh, sweet. What's my top one?
Yeah, no, I get it. Jeez. There's a Prince of Persia game in my top 5. It makes you feel better. Anyway, it is like Mario, except I would say every jump matters more.
The real stakes, because you die if you get it wrong, and I mean, real die.
And not only do you real die, but you only have 60 minutes to get to the top of the tower and rescue the princess. So not only does every jump matter because if you die, you're done, but you also need to be quick about it. And it's a tremendous piece of game design, especially because it was made by like one 14-year-old kid back in the day.
I didn't know that.
Which is insane. And he lied about his age to get the game published, which is, that's just, so it's all the more impressive, but it's just, it's a pretty remarkable product, I would say.
It's really brilliant puzzle design because you really have to get it down. And what happens is as you do it, once you do go through and you beat the game finally, then you have to go through and try to do it from start to finish in one sitting to get that 60-minute timer. And you have to see how much of it you remember, how much muscle memory you have. And it's fun. I love it.
It's the thinking man's Mario.
Good way to put it. Yeah. What about yours?
Oh, well, I hemmed and hawed my whole life over this. But finally, at the end of 2019, I found my favorite game with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Really?
Yeah, which I know.
Even against that Batman game you're obsessed with?
Arkham City, yes. Which I know Arkham City I played like every week since its release. But that's more of like a makes you feel good thing. But yeah, Fallen Order, I wrote a whole review for it on thegamingoutsider.com where I call it the gold standard of video games. It affected me in multiple ways. It's a combination of genres I like, which I call gear-gated games, which is what Arkham City is. And also it is a Souls-like game, which is what like Bloodborne is, or Dark Souls. And it also combines Star Wars, which I adore to death, and the story really got me. It is a story about trauma and survival. It really like the main character, cut himself off from the Force because he's just so afraid of being hunted as a Jedi, because this is after Order 66. And I don't want to go too much into it, but
Yeah, because I'm still playing it.
Yeah, don't spoil it for me. I haven't finished it, and I probably won't, but don't spoil it for me.
my runner-up favorite game is Nier, which is also a game about trauma and survivors and stuff, but it's also a hopeless game. It ends very hopelessly, which when I played it for the first time was really important for me at that point in my life, because I also had no hope. But I view life with more hope now, and this is a more story that hits the exact same themes, but with a happier resolution. And
Don't they have another one coming out?
they do, yeah. So
it sounds not like it's not as hopeless as you just made it sound, right?
wait,
I
you're
think
talking about Nier?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a different group every time.
Oh,
Like the games are
gotcha.
separated.
I don't know
by
anything about it, so.
Oh, they're separated by thousands of years. And I don't want to spoil Nier because it is being remade, but let's just say there's no victory there. But Fallen Order hit the same kind of themes of trauma and survival, and the stuff that really makes a grown man cry. This grown man cry, but did it with more hope, I guess.
Well, you know what? I find emotional value from film and television. You find it from video games. I mean, it's still storytelling. Amanda finds it from music. So
I feel like television more than music and movies even anymore.
really,
Like I am so much more invested in television than I have ever been in a movie. I for whatever reason, the long...
well, you grow with the characters the way they do
and
TV nowadays. So
yeah, and that's just, I get so invested, and my heart is with them every step. And
I mean, look at shows like Friends. I mean, the first day and the last day, same character. They're just different. They just dated different people.
Hey,
it's really like they don't change.
I'm rewatching Friends right now, actually, and it is a delight.
I didn't say it was a bad show. I said they don't evolve. The same people throughout the show.
Yes, well, Joey gets dumber.
How you doing?
that's an achievement.
I was just wondering if you guys you two non-gamers have any ideas for a better term than video game.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Because you feel like the term creates a childish reaction where people are like, "Oh my God, you're
Not
too
only
old for that."
Childish, but like I often think about in correlation to sports. You call them sports even though they are games. They are children's games that you now pay millions of dollars to perform in. But people don't think of it as a children's game, even though it is. And so when I think when people hear game, they hear of something like to be beaten or something that is light or playful.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
And that's why they had to change the term to sports. And I think that's why video games would be benefited by having a different term.
Yeah, I do feel like, because I've had this debate with people, several people over the years, where they will make the case that, football is all manly and stuff. And I hate to be like that. I'm not like that, but I've known people like that. But video games are for kids. And it's just like, what? I mean, any kid that can like really kick ass in a video game is usually more impressive to me than most athletes. I hate to tell you, because I think it's extremely impressive when they really can master it, and you see how quick their brain is working. That's a brain in action.
Right.
You wouldn't believe how women feel about...
Oh, I'm sure.
Obviously, if they play games or they were around it in their life or something, but so many women, and I see this constant, I just had an argument like last week about this.
We're shocked you had an argument.
I shouldn't say I argued. I just kind of pointed out your problem is not with video games. Your problem is with this specific man who is lazy and has an addiction problem. It has nothing to do with the video game itself. And there's just this concept that video gamers are super lazy. They're dumb. They, they're these fat, lazy dudes who just sit in their mom's basement or something.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. You can have if you're not paying attention to life things, that's a problem. But that's like anything else. That's when it becomes an addiction versus a hobby.
That's an addiction that person needs to handle and deal with. And that's them. That's not the video game itself.
Right,
the video game isn't, creating that.
Right. It is no different than the sports fan who has to go to the bar to watch every game.
Exactly.
True. Yeah. And all, yeah. So it's amazing to me that is still such a stigma that's out there. And I don't have good language to suggest for you, Zach.
Esports.
I hate
that word so much.
I think you guys have to focus on, like, the gamer community needs to focus on, in my opinion, inclusion would be a really good start. But also in educating and informing people who are not gamers or who did not grow up with video games to understanding the benefits of it, the mental stimulation and the things that you learn, the actual components that can be beneficial, and show that it's not. I know so many men that have great jobs, they keep up with their lives, but video games are a good part of their life. They like to hang out. That's their thing to do here and there. And they're not obsessed with it or whatever.
I really think that stigma is going to be going away more and more because you've got more and more of this generation that grew up playing video games on all these consoles and still do and love to play them with their kids now and stuff like that. So I think it will fade out, but I agree. It's the name. The name gets in the way sometimes. But I don't see it as much at all like I used to. I can easily tell people now that you're an idiot getting so mad over watching a football game that you're not even participating in, where somebody else is playing a video game. At least they're participating with it. They're part of it. You're just yelling at the TV, really.
Yeah, I don't want to disparage one group or another.
No, we can all have fun together. It's whatever your hobby is.
It's just weird. It's just weird that there are still, but I guess it will always be that way, right? Like there will be a stigma about one thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, it used to be rock and roll music, right? Now it's considered like an old man thing. It's just,
I still get people that tell me like I'm ghetto because I love rap, and I'm like, well, I grew up maybe in the projects, but I don't like that terminology. I don't appreciate it, and I know that people behind that music don't appreciate it. So that's stupid. But people still have that mindset because they don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, to Amanda's point, I do think inclusivity would go a long way. I think a lot of gamers are still trained to be so defensive about the hobby that's not helping anything. It's like, Trekkies back in the day or Star Wars fans back in the day.
I don't know if it's because it's oftentimes when it comes to groups of gamers, it's typically male dominated. And so as a woman entering into that, especially as someone who's not a gamer, as someone who just like casually plays a little bit of a game here and a little bit of a game there, but likes, the community and talking about it. It's sometimes it's like there's a barrier to kind of get over, and there's like a little bit of resistance. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but I feel like
a gender barrier.
Yeah, I feel like if you're a woman, it's a little bit harder for you to just kind of like, it feels like you have to get in with the guys, and it's like, man, this should just be for anybody who likes games. You should be nice to everybody and like invite them in. And if they ask a question, don't be an asshole. And I feel like that's been my experience with some of the gaming community.
I don't disagree. I think it's like most things with gender, it's getting better. But even back in Gears of War 2, I remember Cliff Bleszinski, the creative director, said that 40% of the registered players online were female. But you just never heard from them.
Oh, wow.
I assume they were just felt like they probably couldn't chat online or get in with the guys, like you say.
That's too bad. Yeah, that's too bad. We've been on those multiplayer games. We know how they can be treated sometimes.
Yeah, yes. It's usually with, sex. It's just like as soon as a female voice is heard, everyone's like, oh, hey, baby, how you doing?
Yeah, it's like every stereotype you've ever heard pops out of nowhere. It's like, what just happened? How old are you?
Now, again, I feel like that happens less, unless you're playing Call of Duty. It probably happens.
It happens all the time in Call of Duty. Yep.
Yeah.
It does.
Hey, guys, do you think the story is truth or fiction?
Truth.
Well, truth, because, you basically just kept breaking out of the story at random parts. So I'm going
well, that was an
truth.
Editorial. I cannot help the editor's notes.
I feel like you were catering a story so you could make that point. That's what it felt like.
No, I can't help science.
Truth. I say truth.
Yeah, it is truth. I'm James. So.
Yeah, that seemed obvious.
Yeah, no, I've told this story on like my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider, before.
Wow, that's two plugs.
That's two plugs, man. Really, you just have this whole episode. So
you mentioned the hoe earlier.
Yeah, but it was an important connection.
I was just saying that the story has been told. That's all.
I didn't drop thehollywoodoutsider.com.
Oh, well, that was plugging myself, not the website.
Well, if you want more video game action, you can definitely follow Zach at the Gaming Outsider. The Video Gaming Outsider.
Gaming Outsider.
Oh, no.
Zach, what's the title of your video game story?
All right, here's a bit of a... I like this title, but I think Aaron's going to think it's too long, so I'm probably going to have to give you guys...
No, I'm fast. I'm ready. Let's go.
The title... Up, down, left, right, BA, start.
Just make it all of the symbols instead.
No, like that's perfect. It works.
If you
works.
could do arrows,
awesome.
that would be cool. But yeah,
Works.
I love it. Nice little
funny.
cheat code.
That's funny.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. As our show goes, we will occasionally pick listener stories to read and discuss on SMIRK. And if you'd like the chance to have yours read, you can email it to mystory@smirkpodcast.com. Please join our Facebook group, SMIRK on Facebook. We're on Twitter @SMIRKPodcast. Just use the show's hashtag SMIRK. And our website is smirkpodcast.com.
As you write your own life story, always remember to tell it with a smirk.
Best video game theme song? Is it Mario? It's got to be Mario, right? It's most memorable.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to top Mario. Everybody knows it. Yeah. I was thinking about best movie theme songs the other day. It's got to be Indiana Jones, right?
Absolutely. Which is going to be a video game.
Yes.
What?
Yes,
That is super cool.
My nipples.
I mean, it has been an Indiana Jones game.
They have like a female version already, but still.
Well, they also have Nathan Drake, but like this is, good and proper.
There's only one Indiana Jones.
I don't think I've played an Indiana Jones game I haven't liked yet, so I'm excited.
Well, what's there been, like 2?
Well, they have a bunch of point and click ones back in the day, but then they had The Emperor's Tomb on Xbox and PS2. That game was dope. They had this game Staff of Kings, which I did not play. That was a Wii. It was a PS2 game that released in 2009, so 4 years after the 360 was out.
I just hope there's random things where your hat blows off and then later in the game it blows back to you.
I would love it if you could not progress until you go back and pick up your hat.
Oh, that would be really cool.
That would be sweet.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I love it.